Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. Finally back in action after a move from one residence to another. Our old landlord decided that he wanted his daughter and her college friends to move in. And I say good luck with that. But it's been quite a daunting couple of weeks, actually, probably a month. And I did promise you a podcast last week and did not have my new studio set up, my new office. So I could not fulfill that. But anyway, we're back now and we're in our third year of podcasts, which is amazing to me. I think I told you before that most podcasts fail within the first 7 months. And we're all getting close, moving in on 100 episodes too, by the way. So if you ever are bored and you just want to go back through my YouTube channel and look and subscribe while you're there, and you can go and find other podcasts that I've done. I have a couple of guests on this next couple of podcasts. We'll have guests, and that's always awesome. Remember, if you want to be a guest or know somebody who wants to be a guest, you can contact me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com, and I'd be glad to have somebody on if I think they're a good fit, which most people are. If you want to talk about positive things, motivation, getting over limitations, storytelling, anything, marketing, sales, I'm all up for that. So I'm going to vent a little bit today. It seems that when I do this vent, or if I'm annoyed at something or I'm angry, I get more listeners, but that's not why I'm doing it. This is just truly me wanting to vent. And I'm going to talk about three different subjects. I'm going to talk about worthiness, which I've talked about before. And I think people struggle with that just every day. And I think most people struggle with that, not just a few people. We're going to talk about value, and that's the value you have to people and yourself and to other people. We've talked about that before too, but may have some few different takes on it. And the third thing we're going to talk about is culture in the workplace, culture in America right now. We're just going to talk about the word because it means a lot different things these days than it used to. To me, when I was growing up, and I don't think it's always positive. I think we're trying to do something with culture that's I just don't think it's right. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about worthiness. I recently had a couple conversations with some old friends who are going through some struggles like I am. I am again looking for work, and that'll kind of get back to the culture piece when I get back to that. And we kind of feel like as we get older, we're going to struggle less. I would love to say that's true. That has not been the case for many people that I know, and I have some friends that are really in the thick of things right now with their kids and some other things. And of course, I'm not going to mention who those people are, but it kind of the worthiness thing kind of goes back to value too. I feel like you get to a point, especially when you get older. I think you start to feel like you're not. As important to our nation, to our society, because we're starting to become irrelevant, right? We're not, what we say and what we do doesn't necessarily align itself with millennials or younger people, which is probably the most asinine thing you could ever think of in your life. But I think that's kind of what happens. As my parents were getting older, as my stepdad was getting older, I was looking to them for wisdom. And I think many times we take our senior society, our older people, and we kind of discount them as just being a load on society and not understanding the value that they have to us, to America, to to their grandkids, to their kids. You have to understand that if you're a younger person listening to this, maybe you have small children. We've been through all this. We've done stuff that you can't even fathom that we've had to gone through. Understand that we did it without technology that you have now. We did it without the resources you have now. We did it without the internet, which it's funny I say that because I use the internet quite a bit. If I'm trying to, let's say I use YouTube. If I'm trying to do something at home, I will go on YouTube. And we didn't have those things. We had to be resourceful. We had to go ask people, what was the best thing, how to do something, or how to research something. We had a library. I don't know if you even know what those are anymore, although it's funny enough, the place we just moved has a library right up the street. We used to read books to figure out things. We used to experiment. We used to do a lot of different things where you can now go on YouTube and just figure out anything. I always love when I'm on TikTok and I find these really resourceful things on how to, kind of hacks, life hacks, right? And I learned a couple yesterday. I was showing Kit, and she was like, "It's amazing that I never even thought of this." And it's probably some old guy sitting in a barn figuring out how to do this stuff. And so anyway, but worthiness. I mean, I think we start to feel like we're not worthy to be happy. We're not. It's not. We shouldn't have nice things. We shouldn't. We see all these people on the internet, which most of them are full of shit, that have millions and millions of dollars, and they're going to show us how to make $200,000 a month and this and that, and they're living in their parents' basement doing nothing. And these kids, my kids, my grandkids are getting this message that this is very simple, and it's very easy to make money, and it's very easy to get a job, and it's all very easy to do all these things. And we know that's not true, because anybody we listen to that is truly successful had a hard time, right? And that's okay. That's kind of what builds character. But us not thinking that we deserve those things is just ridiculous. We deserve as much, or you deserve as much. Anybody deserves as much as anybody else. I would point back to religion with this, but I won't, because I'm not going to get into religion. But I've told you before, it's a 1 in 400 trillion chance you were even born. And if you tell me that that doesn't point to the fact that you have some, intrinsic value in the world and in your family and to yourself, then you're crazy, because it does exactly point to that. I think you get to a point sometimes, and I have one friend that's at this point where they don't know what to do, right? They've gone through this, they have this situation they're facing, and they just don't know what to do. And my advice to her and my hope for her is that she just takes it a step at a time. We've talked about, working out and setting goals and things like that in the past, and the best thing to do is just do one thing, right? Just start slow, just get one thing. On Tuesday, I'm going to do this. And I think she's feeling so overwhelmed right now that just starting just to do that one thing is very difficult for her. And I've been praying for her, and I'm hoping she can just take those little steps, those little baby steps, and get her life back. Because you do feel like you've just lost your life, and you're just kind of getting up every morning and just kind of going through the motions. But I will tell you that I think that there's a lot of people in that boat right now, and I think as one of the horrible things, I love social media because I love communicating with my friends and I love all that. But the bad part of it is you're getting a lot of information, like information through a fire hose, right? And it could be good or bad, and unfortunately, most of it's bad. I was listening to a podcast the other day about the news and how when we were in the 60s and 70s, we were getting a few news stories, right? A few, like 10. And they usually didn't contradict each other. And I don't know if they were true. I'm just saying that they didn't contradict each other. So we were kind of all in the same boat. Is the information that we were getting. The information you're getting now is maybe 1,000 stories at a time, and they're all contradictory. You don't know what's true. When I see something online, whether it's a video, audio, whatever it is, I just don't believe any of it. My mom used to say, believe half of what you see and nothing of what you hear. And it's really true how they splice things together. I know when you're looking at these, when the politicians are doing things, or they talk to actors or athletes, and they take snippets out of their conversation, and the next thing you know, they're saying something racist, or they're saying something which that's not what the intent of what they're saying. But when you are in a down mood, when you are struggling, you are feeling like you are worthless, and you're feeling like you have no value in the world, these stories can just stack up on you, right? You're just hearing this bad news constantly, constantly, constantly. I mean, I could take you online right now and show you where it'll tell you the economy is doing great in these sectors and they're hiring like crazy. And on another channel, another social media platform, I can show you that we're in the worst economy we've ever had, ever. I think a lot of this goes back to the leadership we've had over the last 20 years. And when I talk about leadership, I've done that before. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to this point when we're talking about culture and companies. I think we've just allowed ourselves to believe whatever we hear. And that is a dangerous, slippery slope, man, because all you're going to hear is a lot of bad news. I don't even watch the news anymore. I know there's still news channels out there. I don't even have my TV's not even capable. It probably is capable of doing it, but it's not capable of doing it as long as I'm in control because I won't watch the news. It's just always bad news. So, but I would tell you that if you are religious or if you are have some kind of faith, that you should go back to that faith and find that worthiness. It is you are worthy, by the way. You do have an intrinsic value to the world, to everything around you, and sometimes you just get so beat up it's very hard to see. Right? It's very hard to see the forest through the trees, as they say. And the two people, and it's not just these two people, it's just the people I've had recent contact with that are going through some struggles. It just feels like it's never going to get over. And my mom used to say, this too shall pass. And as I look back over my life and when I was going through really struggling times, it did pass. And I try not to dwell on the bad news all the time, but it is so hard. It is so hard. But you need to find people like me or go online, look for motivation. It's one of the reasons I put on these motivational quotes every day online, or not motivational, but inspirational, we'll say, because they do resonate with people. Somebody contacted me yesterday. I've been adding a lot of friends on Facebook recently. For some reason, you just get into these algorithms where you're starting to add friends. And if I'll add a friend if they have like 100 plus or 200 plus mutual friends. I'll add them because I want to get my podcast out there. I want them to see these things I'm posting all the time. So I try and so I add friends, and somebody said they messaged me and said, "Look, you sent me a friend request. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't a multi-level marketer." And I said, "No, I'm not actually, and I'm not selling anything. Although I would love for you to listen to my podcast because eventually that hopefully is going to earn some money." But I understand why he was asking because a lot of times I'll add somebody, and the next thing I know, I'm getting a message from in Messenger saying, "Hey, do you want to earn some extra money?" And as soon as I see that, I just delete them again. So it was funny how he was being cautious about that. So, like I said, as I add these friends, they're all over the United States, all over the world sometimes. And I'm just trying to get to them what I'm posting on Facebook, whether it's about, they don't necessarily need to see what's about my family. That kind of goes out to my family and close friends. But definitely the inspirational quotes. I want them to watch my podcast, things like that. So I will send that stuff out. We need more positivity in this world. There's no doubt in my mind. I've told you before, we have the lowest self-esteem we've ever had in history. Suicide's up. I just had a friend that lost his son to suicide. And it's the most sickening thing. I can't even fathom losing a child, period. And then the suicide even makes it just compounds the whole thing. And I don't know if I've told you this in the past, but we've had that happen to us in the last 3 or 4 years. Not our children, but very close young people that we know. And it's just horrific. It's just the most terrible thing I know you can imagine. We've had some serious tragedies happen in the last 4 years of our life, 3 years of our life, and we're still reeling from those things at some level because there was residual. There was, things that we had to take care of after that have caused us. I don't want to say. I mean, there was obviously pain at the beginning, but it's because there's a burden on us that we need to that we've decided to take on, and it's not a horrible thing. It's just what it is, right? Sorry about that. And so anyway, um, I don't know. I hope that when I'm talking about these things, I'm not necessarily telling you what to do. Obviously, I'm not. I'm just sharing with you some things that I'm going through, and you might say, "Yeah, I kind of understand what you mean. I kind of know what this is, and kind of know." One of my friends is having a hard time. I cannot fathom what she's going through because this is something I can't even get a grip on what she's going through. And I hope she listens to this podcast. Actually, I'm going to encourage her to do that. And I want her to understand that, we're here for her. We're here to help her. And just like any of you, I'm here for. If you ever wanted to email me, at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. I'd be happy to start a conversation with you if you're struggling. Sometimes maybe I come up with something that you can resonate with. And frankly, maybe you come up with something I can resonate with. I'm always looking for advice and help and, you know, things like that. I don't know if you ever, you always need somebody in some, a springboard, a bounce board to bounce some things off of. So, yeah, always feel free to contact me. You can always hit me up on, put a message in the YouTube channel as well. But I want you to know that I'm 100%, 1,000% confident that you are worthy to have whatever anybody else has in life, and that you are being looked out for and you are helping people at some level. So you have value to your kids, to your friends, to your parents, to your brothers and sisters, to that person at the grocery store that might be having a bad day, and your smile is going to change that bad day. You all have value to those people, and you are worthy to have anything that you desire in life and that you want. So let's switch the gears a little bit. Let's talk about culture, and it'll probably bring some of this worthiness and value in. So when I was a kid, I guess the word culture was used primarily to describe a nationality or a sector of society, right? They have a Hispanic culture or a Filipino culture, and I always felt like I wasn't part of that. Obviously, I'm not Hispanic or Filipino, but I always like to see those cultures thrive, because I think that it's kind of historic, and they're really family oriented and stuff like that. Which I'm mutt, we really didn't have that, and we did have family around, but not in sizes like that. Like we have one of my son-in-laws is Albanian, and they have a very strong culture. We had a baby shower for my daughter when she had her first child, and hundreds of these people showed up, and it was just awesome. It was just super nice people, and then I would bump into them in Poway and things like that, and they were awesome people. So that's kind of when I hear the word culture, that's kind of what I would think of. What's changed, I don't know, over the last 5 or 10 years is we bring this word culture into the workplace or into society. And when you bring it into the workplace and they're talking about taking care of your employees and offering you've seen news stories about how these companies offer this to their company or their employees, and this to their employees, and they're creating this culture. The problem with all that is we go so far, it's just typical America, or maybe typical humans. We go so far to one side that we start to do so much for the employees that we forget they're there to do a job, right? We get into these situations where they want this culture that is going to be kind and open and non-judgmental, and all these things that really go against human nature sometimes. And when I was growing up, I think I told you in the 80s, I worked for a guy that owned the Pepsi plant that said, if you do your job, I'll let you keep it. That was the attitude. And is that a great attitude to have? I don't know. We did our job and we kept them. So it probably wasn't. It was like the difference between the way they teach kids versus the way they taught us when we were kids. It was a little tougher when we were kids. Well, it wasn't tougher. It was just, there was just no nonsense. There's a lot more nonsense now. There's a lot more culture that says we should coddle people a lot more and things like that. So what happens when you're in a situation, and this is what happened in my last job, is we were in a meeting and I asked a question that the owner did not like. You could see it on his face. He didn't like it. He was very rude to me when he answered me, which I don't care. It didn't hurt my feelings. I don't have my feelings sticking out. It didn't hurt my feelings. I thought he was a dick, but whatever. I thought that of other people that I still like. And he really took offense to this, that I, had asked this question. And it wasn't an odd question. It was just, a question. So during the rest of the meeting, I guess I was visibly kind of my resting bitch face. I've told you before, I used to go to these mixers all the time. And then I get there early and be sitting at a table or standing against the wall, kind of checking my email or whatever. And when I don't have the smile on my face, apparently I don't look happy, right? I've heard this from kids at the gym, hey, your dad looks mean when he works out. Well, I'm not dancing around fluttering my arms or anything. I definitely am serious. I'm focused. I'm there to do a job, but I'm not unhappy. And so apparently during that meeting, I didn't look happy, whatever, resting normal everyday face for me. I don't have a smile on like this all the time. So after the meeting, we discussed it, and I said, yeah, I get what you're saying. I was just asking the question. It was not that big a deal. No big deal. We went away. Everybody goes back to work. Well, apparently this did not resonate well with him, and over the next week, he thought about it a bunch of times, and then decided that I wasn't a good fit for the company. And even though I had, even things moving very positively, and I was getting sales, and they were going to be coming in fast and hard. But it's the whole idea. This guy had his feelings hurt, right? I asked a question. He didn't like me to ask the question. The problem is in this cultural thing, it only works if you're happy, right? If everybody's happy dancing around, hugging each other, can't hug, looking at each other and smiling and saying good morning, then you're not a good fit for the culture. Well, it's ridiculous. Listen, anger is just as important as happiness as far as emotions go. When you talk about athletes like Lawrence Taylor or Ray Lewis, people like that, and we look at athletes and we see how intense they are, John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, whoever you could bring up, um, they're intense when they do their sport, right? They're very and that's the way we grew up. We got intense about our job. When the things had to get done, we got done. We got serious. We got busy and things like that. And if you want to call that the culture, it was an awesome culture because we were very competitive. We wanted to get things done. We wanted the job to get right. We wanted to get to the next job. We wanted to get home to our families. I mean, all the best things you want employees to do. But now, unless somebody is happy all the time, we have a problem, right? And I was telling one of my coworkers, I said, just because this person owns a company doesn't mean he's smart, right? We have plenty of companies out there that are making money in spite of themselves. Now, I have always wanted to work at this particular company, and I'm not going to mention it because I'm in the mix right now. And they had an interesting culture. So their culture was very, very competitive, very research and development oriented, very much what should we do to the employees, right? Asking the employees, how can we be better at what we do? And that's what a real culture is. There's going to be anger, there's going to be disagreements, there's going to be things like that. But at the end of the day, it's all in the best interest of the company, right? That's what we do. That's what the right culture is. When these guys talk about these days and they have these millennials that are working, they kind of work, they kind of don't, they take a bunch of personal time off, they have all these things. Now, they could be getting the job done, and that's great. That's up to the boss. That's not my call. But when we do have that person, those people that are competitive or that are get serious about business, um, and let me tell you, in the '80s, maybe they probably went a little bit far. What I'm telling you, we had a guy jump on the desk one time, a general manager, and jump up and down, slamming his fist. Maybe that's a little bit extreme, but that's his personality. We knew that about him. We knew why he was like that. He wanted us to be high performing and do what's in the best interest of the company. So I think we need to, when we talk about culture these days, we need to get a little tougher. I mean, I think we're just a little bit. I've seen some TikTok videos lately where there's guys, crying about having to work 8 hours a day, and they want me to come in on a Sunday, and they want me to do this and that. And I told you before, my dad used to wake me up if I was off on a Friday night, Saturday morning. I worked nights, and he got a call for me to come in. He would tell the person he'll be there in 30 minutes. I remember him waking me up one time. It was like 10 o'clock at night because I'd been working the night before, and he says, "Hey, you just got a call to come into work." I said, "No, I'm off." And he says, "No, I told him you'd be there in 30 minutes because that's how you're going to move up at this company. You're off your ass and you go in and help them out. They need the job, the help." Um, we need to maybe redefine that word culture and well, I'd love to get back to what it meant in the 80s, but understand that just because there's a guy that's competitive or a guy that's intense, and that's how maybe I get my motivation when I go to the gym and stuff like that. I'm not dilly-dallying around. I'm very serious. That's still okay in our culture, right? We're just so soft right now. It's just it makes me sick. I mean, uh, and it's sometimes it's my kids too or my grandkids, and I'm not sure. When you're raising kids, as you guys know that are parents, you got about uh, um, 30 minutes a day with them, 50, maybe an hour a day, and then they're at school and they're getting all this information pumped into their brain. And it's hard. I mean, even when we were kids, when our parents were raising us, we were getting information pumped into our brains too. But somehow the information was closer to what my parents' information was. So I have to deal with that sometimes, especially with Carson, my teenager that we have here, about that intensity. He wanted to help with something the other day. Actually, I won't even give that example because he didn't want to do the bad part of it. He just wanted to do the fun part. He didn't want to do the cleanup part. And he joked and said, "That's not in my contract." I said, "Well, it's in my contract. So, and I'm the one paying you. So you get to go by my contract." And there's an 80s reference right there. I'm the one paying you. So we have this, we've developed this culture where everything's just, butterflies and daisies. And that's not the reality of things. And these friends I was talking about, what they're going through, this is not butter. This is serious, serious shit that they're involved with right now. And it's very hard to deal with because those people you go talk to, because maybe those friends that are in this current culture just can't get their hands wrapped around it, right? This is not a TV show. This is reality. And not a reality TV show. This is real stuff. This is stuff that goes on the economy, the way the economy is right now. Finding that next position, dealing with, courts and things like that. This is serious stuff that's very hard to deal with, when you're 20, let alone when you're my age, when you're 60. So I told you it kind of all ties back around to that value. When you are at a company and they have a culture that they value who you are and what you do, that's important. They don't necessarily have to value your feelings. We cannot regulate feelings. We can't. If there's a person, have you ever met those people that are just kind of seem grumpy all the time? That's their business. It's not my business. I've had some very good employees that were grumpy all the time that got their job done, and that's what their expectation was, to get paid, is to get your job done. Sometimes people just don't have that outgoing personality. Sometimes people are very much introverts, and that's okay. That's just we're all different. It's not bad to be an introvert. It's just who those people are. I tell you, I've called on engineers before. Engineers are different types of people. It's not that they're unhappy. They're just a little more serious about things. They're a little bit more focused. They can kind of get their brain wrapped around one thing better than me. I kind of have a lot of things going on in my mind a lot of times. So that's just my personality. I'd much rather be in a room full of people with a microphone than I would be sitting working at home, out at the house. So, we have to understand that. And part of our culture should be that we make concessions for all those types of personality. And just because somebody gets their feelings hurt doesn't mean that that's a bad person that hurt their feelings. My mom used to say about my sister, she'd say, "They hurt my feelings." She said, "Stop sticking them out so far." That was one of her sayings. So I was talking I think I was talking to Kit, and I was telling her when we were in the grocery business, working nights, there was only men that worked over at night. And that might have just been, I think if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to work with all of us smelly guys anyway. And these guys would insult each other, all in fun, but I mean, brutal, brutal insults, like, just being stupid guys. I mean, nothing was off limits. And at first it is kind of disheartening. It's like, they're making fun of me or they're doing whatever. But you know what? Everybody made fun of everybody. And whatever you could think of and say, it was funny. But I got to tell you, at the end of the day, when it came down to it, we all worked together. We all helped each other. We all did whatever we had to do to get the job done. And it was a nightly thing. It wasn't just, it wasn't a project that went on for 6 months. It was every night we had to get this store ready, get the shelf stocked, do all those things. And we worked great as a team, and we hung out after work and we do things. And after work, maybe those insults weren't as prevalent. I don't know. I can't remember, but I can tell you that a few of those people I'm still friends with after 40 years. So it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, the same thing happened at Pepsi. It was primarily men that worked there, and we would make fun. Now, with all that being said, I kind of said this primarily men. We weren't rude to women. We weren't harassing them. We weren't doing those things. Some guys did, and those guys got in trouble for it, as they should. So that's just the way it was. It was just, these days everybody's just so damn soft that, you can't say anything to anybody without hurting their feelings. This Michael Urban thing that came up, I don't know if you paid attention to this. I don't know what happened in this conversation. I don't care what he said to her. She doesn't deserve a settlement because he said something rude to her. Maybe the guy's just rude. I don't know. She walked away from him. It was a 45-second conversation, or a minute and a half, I think they said. And the thing is, I don't know the details to it, and I don't care. He didn't hit her or anything like that. Whatever he said to her, remember the sticks and stones kind of thing when we were kids? Someone says something rude to you, say something back. I don't know. Ignore them and never talk to them again. I don't know. But I mean, any of you that have had kids, you've got to deal with this. People would say stuff to the kids. I talked to Piper on the way home, and she'll give me a rundown of all the drama, at 9 years old. And that's my advice to her. Well, if that person's not nice, don't be around them. I don't know why this is so difficult. But see, this society right now, we're having to coddle everybody. We have to take care of everybody, make sure there's too many groups, there's too much discrimination, there's too much of a lot of things, and it's because we keep segregating ourselves. So you can't say anything, and I'm getting just a hair politicals, and I want to get away from that. So, I mean, the thing is it's cultures. You got to have. It's important if you're getting a new job or you're in a job and you're a manager or leader. You got to create a culture, but you got to create a culture that applies to everybody. You can't just create a culture that applies to this age group or that age group. You have to apply it. It has to apply to everybody, and it has to be fair. And you have to. At the end of the day, you just have to get the job done. That's really what you need to do. And I would say to you, younger people that get their feelings hurt, stop. Just stop. Ignore. Best thing in the world. Just ignore those people. Hang around better people. If there's someone harassing you at work, go to HR. Take the right steps. That's not fair. That should never happen. But understand harassing, and you didn't like their comment about the Cowboys or whatever the thing was. Just stop. We need to start loving each other again, because we're just at this point where we're just fighting amongst ourselves constantly, and it's making everything worse. And the only people that seem to be happy with this is rich people, the super rich. But I don't know about that. It's a whole nother subject. So worthiness, you are worthy. I got news for you. You have an intrinsic value to the world, and you have an intrinsic value to create the culture around you that you want, right? We need to stop. We just need to start getting along and keep listening to my podcast. I just added that in. So anyway, this is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. Just a little venting today. I have 2 guests coming up. They're going to be very good guests. I've known one for a long time, and the other person I just met, or I'm just meeting. And but I was introduced by someone of high character, and I assume that she's going to be that way too. edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com if you want to get a hold of me. Thanks for listening today. Like I said, we're closing in on 100 episodes in our third year of doing this podcast, and it's going to get bigger and better. I guarantee you. We're settled in at this place now, and going to give us an opportunity to do some good stuff. So I love all you guys. Stay worthy, stay valued, and create that culture you want. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.